In today's video, we're going to be talking about a powerful training technique called eccentric training. And if you don't know what it is, don't worry, that's exactly what we're going to dive into in today's video. We're going to be talking about why it's so effective, especially for us wheelchair users, in building strength safely. So what exactly is eccentric training? Well, essentially any exercise is made up of two phases: the concentric phase and the eccentric phase. The concentric, if we're talking about something like a bicep curl, is when we curl the weight up, contracting the muscle, concentric exercise. But when we lower it back down, that's the eccentric phase of the exercise. The muscle hasn't stopped working during this phase, it's working in a different way. It's working to lower the weight slowly and controlled. You could think of this almost like controlling a heavy door to close slowly, rather than just letting it slam shut. You're in control the whole way. Eccentric training has a whole host of benefits, especially for us wheelchair users, where we really need to have good joint control to prevent injury, but also to strengthen up our body for maximum results. The first benefit here is that it builds stronger muscles. And it does this because if we just do the concentric phase of the exercise, for example the bicep curl, and just let it drop back down, we're only doing 50% of the exercise. However, if we control the movement on the way down, we're now unlocking 100% of the exercise. So for each and every rep, you're getting double the amount of work and getting much more results in a shorter time frame. This builds more strength and size in your muscles for better results. It also helps to increase our stability within our joints. The more slow and controlled we do our movements in the lowering phase, it means that we're getting more control over each movement that we do. This more control adds stability, which means our joints are much more protected when we're doing daily activities such as pushing our wheelchair or doing transfers. Which brings us nicely on to point 3, the reduced risk of injury because of doing this lowering training. We're strengthening up our muscles for a much more full range of motion by doing it all the way up and all the way down. This strengthens the tendons, the ligaments, everything that keeps that joint connected and stable. So let's give a few more examples of how you can actually do this eccentric training. We've already mentioned the bicep curl. That's a very basic one, and it doesn't actually require any additional equipment. It just requires patience, if anything, remembering to slow it down on the way down. But we can also apply this to other exercises. Take a chest press. When we push out, we're doing the concentric phase, but when we lower that back down again, we're working on the eccentric phase. It's exactly the same as the bicep curl, slowly on the lower phase. Again, we can do it with the shoulder press. Concentric on the way up, eccentric on the way down. And you can kind of get the theme here. It's all about slowly returning to the starting position. This is going to unlock more from each and every rep. Now I want to talk about one really great point about eccentric training when it comes to us wheelchair users, especially if you're somebody who has muscle weakness due to paralysis or something else, but also when it comes to if you've got minimal equipment too. Let's take the bicep curl again. If you've got, for example, a 5 kilogram dumbbell and you're doing your bicep curls, and you can do 10 quite easily. Now the way we can make that harder is increasing the weight. But in a wheelchair, sometimes that can be unsafe. Either the weight's too big and it hits against your chair, or you're not stable enough. Or, as I mentioned, you might not just have the equipment with you at home or wherever you may be doing your exercises. Or the jump up may be too big to 7.5 kilograms. Whatever reason, it may be that you don't have access to a higher weight. So how can we make the exercise harder to keep your progression going? Well, we slow it down and increase our time under tension. That's the time that our muscles are working, by slowing down the exercise. If we do an exercise where we do concentric for maybe 2 seconds and then drop it back down, that's only 2 seconds that our muscles are under tension for through the exercise. However, if we do 2 seconds up and then 2 seconds back down again, that's now 4 seconds for each and every exercise, making every rep a little bit harder than it would be otherwise. That means we can progress more without having to go a heavier weight, meaning you get more results from the same weight, and which is particularly great. I know a lot of you out there do the workouts that I do from home, and you may only have one set of dumbbells, and you want to keep progressing, and this is a great way to do it. Slow down the movement, focus on the eccentric too. So I want to give you a few tips on how to maximize your eccentric training. And my first tip here is to start with a light weight. Again, you may only have access to one weight, so do what you can with that. But start off light if you have availability to do so, and just control the movement. As you get better, you can either do a slightly longer eccentric or increase the weight until you feel like you're at a point where you're comfortable to keep progressing forwards. You can always build up more as your body adapts. Next up is to focus on your form. What I mean by this is the actual movement of the exercise. The great thing about eccentric training is because you're slowing it down, you do have time to focus on your form. So for something like a bicep curl, that's quite simple. But for an overhead press, you may want to focus on where your elbow position is for a much more comfortable press above your head. Slowing it down allows you to focus on that form and get the most from every rep. My next tip is to give yourself recovery time. With your normal training, you may be able to do 10 reps, rest for a minute, and then do another 10 reps. However, if you're doing 10 reps where each rep is now 4 seconds rather than 2, every set is going to be tougher. So you may need that extra little bit of rest. Don't worry, that's absolutely fine. Take the extra rest and make sure you can hit each and every rep the best you can. And my last tip here is to limit the amount of times you're doing this per week. And what I mean by this is if you're doing a bicep curl, you naturally don't really want to be doing this for 4 times a week anyway. 2 times a week will suffice with enough rest in between to make sure you're recovering properly. Especially in those early days, doing eccentric training is a big bump in terms of intensity. You need the rest days in between to recover. With any exercise anyway, I often recommend to do it twice a week with about 2 days rest in between. This is going to get you the most results in the shortest time frame. And that's the great thing about eccentric training, is that you can mix it up with your regular training. It's not a huge amount extra, it's just about focusing on slowing down the movement, especially on the lowering phase. So combine it with your regular training and see how you progress in your normal training. If you do this correctly, you'll see results in a much shorter time frame. So there you have it. That is eccentric training. A great, powerful tool that you can add to your regular training to boost it and get more from each time you do your training session. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns about eccentric training, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll be sure to help you on your fitness journey. If you did like the video as well, hit the like button. It really does help out this channel to reach much more people. And if you're new here or you haven't already, subscribe for more great videos just like this one. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Are you ready to start your fitness journey? Then sign up now at adapttoperform.co.uk and get access to hundreds of workouts specifically for us wheelchair users.